Two gods wanted the same city. One commanded the oceans. The other possessed the wisdom of Olympus. Both were powerful. Both were proud. And neither was willing to surrender. According to one of the most famous legends of ancient Greece, their rivalry would determine the fate of a city that would eventually become one of the greatest centers of civilization the world had ever known. Its name was Athens. But before it became the city of philosophers, warriors, temples, and democracy, it was a prize claimed by gods. And to win it, Poseidon would have to prove that he could give the people something they could never live without. Yet his opponent, Athena, would offer something far simpler. Something that would change the city's destiny forever. The contest began with a question that sounds almost impossible today. Who would become the divine protector of Athens? The answer would not be decided by armies. It would not be decided by a duel. Instead, the gods would compete by giving the city a gift. And Poseidon, ruler of the sea and earth shaker, believed victory was already within his grasp. After the defeat of the Titans, Poseidon had received dominion over the seas. He was one of the most powerful gods in existence. His trident could summon storms. His anger could shake the earth. His chariot could race across the waves. Sailors feared him, kings respected him, and coastal cities depended upon his favor. But Poseidon was not content simply to rule the ocean. Like many of the great gods of Olympus, he desired cities that would honor him. A city was more than a collection of buildings to the ancient Greeks. It was a sacred relationship between mortals and the divine. A city had its gods. Its temples were dedicated to them. Its festivals celebrated them. Its people prayed to them. Its rulers sacrificed to them. And the god who protected a city could become part of its very identity. Poseidon wanted such a city. And in the land of Attica stood a settlement that was becoming increasingly important. It occupied a strategic position near the sea. Its people depended on agriculture, trade, fishing, and the waters surrounding their land. It was a city with enormous potential. But it did not yet have a divine patron. Poseidon saw an opportunity. If he could claim the city, his worship would become deeply rooted there. His temples would rise above its people. His name would be spoken in their prayers. His power would be remembered whenever they looked toward the sea. But there was another god who had noticed the same opportunity. Athena, daughter of Zeus. Goddess of wisdom, strategic warfare, craftsmanship, and intelligent civilization. Unlike Poseidon, Athena was not primarily associated with the uncontrollable forces of nature. Her power was different. She represented intelligence, planning, skill, discipline, and the ability to solve problems without relying entirely on brute strength. And she wanted the city too. At first, the rivalry may have seemed almost inevitable. Poseidon represented the sea. Athena represented wisdom. Both had reasons to believe that they could protect the people of Attica. But neither was prepared for the other to win. According to the ancient tradition, the contest took place in the presence of Cecrops, the legendary first king of Athens. Cecrops was no ordinary mortal. Myth described him as an ancient ruler associated with the earliest organization of the city and its people. He was said to have taught the inhabitants customs, religious practices, and forms of civilized life. In some traditions, he was described as having the upper body of a man and the lower body of a serpent, connecting him symbolically to the land itself. It was Cecrops who would witness the divine contest. The two gods approached the city. Imagine the scene. The settlement stood beneath the Attic sky, surrounded by rocky hills and overlooking the distant sea. There were no great marble temples yet. No Parthenon dominated the horizon. No philosophers gathered in public squares. Athens had not yet become the Athens known to history. It was still young. And now two immortals stood before it, each claiming the right to become its protector. Poseidon arrived first, according to some tellings. And when the sea god made his entrance, the landscape itself seemed to respond. The air grew heavy. The waters moved. The people looked toward the coast and saw the god of the sea approaching with his mighty trident. He was not a quiet deity. Poseidon was a god of force. He embodied the violence and unpredictability of nature. When calm, the sea could sustain life and connect distant lands. When enraged, it could destroy everything in its path. Poseidon carried both sides of that power within him. He raised his trident, and then he struck the earth. The ground shook beneath the force of the divine weapon. From the place where the trident struck, a source of water appeared. The gift seemed extraordinary. Water meant life. Water meant survival. Water could sustain a city during drought. And for a city that depended upon the surrounding land and sea, Poseidon's gift carried enormous significance. But there was a problem. In many versions of the legend, the water was not fresh. It was salt water. Some traditions describe Poseidon's gift as a spring of seawater. Others connect the story with a body of water or spring known as the Erechtheus. Whatever the exact ancient version, the symbolism remained powerful. Poseidon had offered the city something that represented his own domain, the sea itself. He had planted his mark upon the land. He had demonstrated his power. He had shown the people what it meant to have the sea god as their protector. But Poseidon was not finished. In some traditions he also displayed his power by creating the first horse. Other myths associate him strongly with the creation or generation of horses, reflecting one of his ancient identities as a god connected not only with the sea and earthquakes but also with horses. The horse was a symbol of speed, strength, and nobility. It was another reminder that Poseidon was far more complex than the simple image of a sea god. He was a force of nature in many forms. Yet the contest for Athens had not been decided. Athena stepped forward. She did not try to overpower Poseidon. She did not summon a storm. She did not strike the earth with a weapon. Instead, she looked at the land and understood what the people needed. Athena planted an olive tree. At first glance, the gift must have seemed almost insignificant compared with Poseidon's dramatic display. Poseidon had shaken the earth. He had produced water from stone. He had demonstrated the raw power of an Olympian god. Athena had planted a tree. But the tree was no ordinary tree. The olive was one of the most valuable plants in the ancient Mediterranean world. It could provide food. Its fruit could be eaten or processed. Its oil could be used for cooking. It could provide fuel and light. Olive oil could be used in medicine, cosmetics, religious rituals, and athletic practices. The tree could survive in the harsh Mediterranean environment and continue producing for generations. Athena had not simply given the city an object. She had given it a source of long-term prosperity. Her gift represented something different from Poseidon's. Poseidon had shown power. Athena had shown usefulness. Poseidon had offered the sea. Athena had offered civilization. And now the city had to choose. In some versions of the story, the decision was made by sea crops. In others, the gods themselves played a role in determining the outcome. The details vary because Greek mythology was never a single, fixed story. Different poets, cities, and periods preserved different versions. But the central idea remained remarkably consistent. Athena's gift was judged more beneficial to the people of Athens. The city became hers. And from that moment onward, Athena's name would become inseparable from Athens. The city would bear her name. Her sacred olive tree would become a symbol of its identity. And the hill that became the Acropolis would eventually be crowned by one of the most famous temples ever built in her honor. But Poseidon had lost. And Poseidon was not known for accepting humiliation quietly. Imagine what the sea god must have felt. He had entered the contest with immense confidence. He was one of the most powerful gods in the universe. He had offered the people a gift from his own divine domain. Yet a tree had defeated him. A tree. To the ancient Greeks, however, the story was not simply about which gift was more impressive. It represented a deeper contrast between two forces. Poseidon represented the unpredictable power of nature. Athena represented the human ability to use knowledge and skill to transform nature into civilization. The sea could carry ships and connect nations, but it could also destroy them. The olive tree could not conquer an ocean. It could not summon storms. It could not shake mountains. But it could feed people for generations. It could provide oil for lamps and rituals. It could become part of the economy and culture of an entire society. Athena had understood something Poseidon had overlooked. The greatest gift was not always the most spectacular one. Sometimes the most powerful gift was the one that continued to provide long after the giver had disappeared. Yet the story becomes darker when we look at what happened next. Some ancient traditions say Poseidon's anger did not end with the loss of the contest. According to later accounts, he flooded parts of Attica or sent destructive waters against the region. The exact details vary, and the earliest sources do not all tell the same story. But the image is powerful. The god who ruled the sea had been rejected by the city, and the sea itself became an instrument of his anger. There is something deeply fitting about that image. Poseidon did not need an army. He did not need soldiers. His weapon was the ocean. If he wanted to punish a city near the coast, he could simply unleash the force that mortals could never truly control. Waves would rise. Rivers would overflow. Storms would descend. And the boundary between land and sea would disappear. To people who lived along the Mediterranean, such a story would have felt terrifyingly plausible. They knew the sea could change without warning. A calm morning could become a deadly afternoon. A ship could leave harbor under clear skies and never return. An earthquake beneath the sea could send walls of water toward a settlement before anyone understood what was happening. To them, Poseidon was not merely a character in a myth. He represented the terrifying reality of nature itself. But the Athenians did not completely reject Poseidon. That is one of the most interesting parts of the story. Even after Athena became the city's principal patron, Poseidon continued to be worshipped in Attica. His relationship with Athens was complicated. He was defeated in the contest, but he remained an important god. In the ancient world, losing a mythological contest did not mean a god simply disappeared. The gods could have overlapping powers, competing cults, and different sacred locations. Athena might protect the city, while Poseidon remained essential to sailors, horses, earthquakes, and the sea. In fact, Poseidon had an important sanctuary at Saunion, at the southern tip of Attica. There, overlooking the Aegean, stood the Temple of Poseidon. Imagine approaching it from the sea. The temple rises on a rocky promontory above the water. Behind it lies the vast Attic landscape. Before it stretches the endless blue of the Aegean. For ancient sailors, the sight of the temple would have been more than beautiful. It was a reminder that Poseidon still watched the waters. Ships passing near the coast could see the sanctuary from a distance. They knew that the god of the sea was still present. The story of Athens also reveals something important about Poseidon's character. He was not evil in the simple sense. Greek gods rarely fit neatly into categories of good and evil. They were powerful, emotional, unpredictable, and deeply human in their desires. Poseidon could protect sailors and destroy ships. He could provide water and unleash floods. He could create horses and cause earthquakes. He could father heroes and monsters. He could help mortals one day and punish them the next. His morality was not the morality of a human ruler. It was the morality of a force of nature. You did not ask whether the ocean was good or evil. You respected it. You prepared for it. You sacrificed to it. And you never forgot what it could do. This was the world in which Poseidon was worshipped. A world where survival depended upon understanding forces far more powerful than any individual human being. And Poseidon stood at the center of many of those forces. But his rivalry with Athena would have consequences beyond Athens. Because the sea god's pride was not limited to one city. He competed with other gods for influence. He challenged rulers. He interfered in the lives of heroes. And when mortals offended him, his anger could follow them across the sea for years. One of the most famous examples would come from a man who had no idea just how dangerous it was to anger the ruler of the oceans. His name was Odysseus. Odysseus was the legendary king of Ithaca and one of the greatest heroes of the Trojan War. He was famous for his intelligence, his cunning, and his ability to survive situations that should have been impossible. During the war, his cleverness helped the Greeks defeat Troy. But after the war ended, Odysseus began the journey home. He expected to return to his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus. Instead, his voyage became one of the longest and most dangerous journeys in Greek mythology. And at the center of his suffering stood Poseidon. The reason was a terrible encounter with one of Poseidon's sons, a giant cyclops named Polyphemus. Odysseus and his men became trapped inside the cyclops' cave. Polyphemus was enormous, violent, and possessed only one eye. He blocked the cave entrance with a massive stone and began killing Odysseus' companions. Odysseus knew that strength alone could not save them. So he used the weapon he understood better than anyone else, his mind. He told Polyphemus that his name was Nobody. Then he gave the Cyclops wine. As Polyphemus became drunk, Odysseus and his men attacked his eye with a sharpened stake. The Cyclops screamed in agony. Other Cyclopes heard him and came running. They asked who was attacking him. Polyphemus shouted that nobody was hurting him. The others assumed he had gone mad and left him alone. Odysseus had outsmarted the monster. But his victory was incomplete. When the Greeks escaped, Odysseus made a terrible mistake. He revealed his true name. He wanted Polyphemus to know who had defeated him. And Polyphemus was not merely a monster living alone on an island. He was the son of Poseidon. The Cyclops raised his voice toward his father and prayed for revenge. He asked Poseidon to make Odysseus suffer. If Odysseus was destined to return home, Polyphemus asked that the journey be long, difficult, and filled with suffering. Poseidon heard the prayer. And from that moment, the sea became Odysseus' enemy. Storms drove his ships far from their destination. His companions died one after another. Islands that should have offered safety became traps. Strange creatures and hostile peoples stood between him and home. Years passed. The man who wanted nothing more than to return to his family became a prisoner of the ocean. And throughout his journey, Poseidon's anger remained a shadow over him. The story demonstrates something essential about Poseidon. You could be intelligent. You could be brave. You could be favored by other gods. You could survive monsters and wars. But if the sea god decided that you had offended him, the ocean itself could become your prison. Yet Poseidon was not only a god who punished heroes. He also had a complicated relationship with them. Many legendary heroes were connected to him through ancestry. Some traditions named Poseidon as the father of important figures such as Theseus. And this created another fascinating contradiction. The same god who could destroy heroes could also produce them. Poseidon was a god of creation and destruction, fertility and catastrophe, life and death. His waters could sustain civilizations, but his earthquakes could tear them apart. His horses could carry warriors into battle, while his storms could sink their ships. His mythology was filled with these contradictions because the ancient Greeks themselves lived with those contradictions every day. They needed the sea. They feared the sea. They depended upon the earth. They feared earthquakes. They raised horses. They feared wild nature. Poseidon embodied all of it. And perhaps nowhere is his complexity more mysterious than in the legends surrounding Atlantis. Centuries after the earliest Greek myths had taken shape, the philosopher Plato told a story about a magnificent island civilization known as Atlantis. According to Plato's dialogues, Atlantis was a powerful island kingdom located beyond the Pillars of Heracles, generally associated with the Strait of Gibraltar. Its people were wealthy, technologically advanced by the standards of the story, and ruled by descendants of the god Poseidon. According to the tale, Poseidon himself became connected with the island and divided its territory among his sons. The central region was given to his eldest son, Atlas. The island was surrounded by concentric rings of land and water. Great palaces rose above the landscape. Bridges connected different districts. The civilization became powerful and prosperous. But then something changed. The Atlanteans became increasingly proud and corrupt. Their ambition grew. Their behavior became increasingly unjust. And eventually, according to Plato, the gods judged them. In a single catastrophic event, Atlantis was destroyed and disappeared beneath the sea. For thousands of years, people have wondered whether Atlantis was based on a real place. Explorers have searched for it beneath oceans. Writers have connected it with volcanic islands, sunken civilizations, and prehistoric catastrophes. But there is no archaeological evidence establishing that Plato's Atlantis existed as a real historical empire. The story is generally understood as a philosophical tale created by Plato. Yet its connection to Poseidon has helped transform the sea god into something even larger in the modern imagination. He became associated not only with the sea, storms, earthquakes, and horses, but with the idea of entire civilizations disappearing beneath the waves. And perhaps that is why Poseidon remains so fascinating. He is not simply a god with a trident. He is a symbol of the ocean itself, beautiful from a distance, terrifying when approached, generous when calm, unforgiving when disturbed. The contest with Athena tells us one thing about Poseidon. He could lose. The story of Odysseus tells us another. He could hold a grudge for years. The legends of earthquakes tell us that his anger could reach beneath the feet of mortals. And the story of Atlantis shows how deeply his identity became intertwined with the mysterious world beneath the waves. But there was still another side to Poseidon that deserves attention. Despite his violent reputation, people prayed to him for protection. Sailors called upon him before voyages. Athletes and horsemen honored him. Communities built temples in his name. Kings sought his favor. He was feared precisely because his power mattered. A god who could not affect your life would not need to be feared. Poseidon could. If he favored you, the sea could become your road to wealth. Ships could travel safely. Trade could flourish. Fishing could provide food. If he turned against you, that same sea could become a wall between you and home. It could destroy fleets, erase harbors, and separate families forever. This is why the ancient Greeks approached Poseidon with caution. They did not expect him to behave like a benevolent human ruler. They understood that divine power came with unpredictability. Their sacrifices, prayers, and festivals were attempts to maintain a relationship with forces they could never control. And nowhere was that relationship more important than along the coast. Imagine a Greek sailor preparing to leave harbor. His ship is small. Its wooden hull creaks under the pressure of the waves. The sail hangs from a simple mast. The horizon looks calm. But the sailor knows that calm can be deceptive. Before leaving, he might pour wine into the sea. He might pray to Poseidon. He might promise a sacrifice if he returns safely. Then the ship leaves shore. The land slowly disappears behind him. Ahead is nothing but water. Every wave becomes a reminder of the god beneath the surface. Every cloud is watched carefully. Every change in the wind matters. And somewhere in the imagination of that sailor stands Poseidon, holding his trident. If the god is pleased, the journey continues. If he is angry, the sea becomes a battlefield. This was the psychological power of Poseidon. He did not need to appear physically to dominate people's lives. His presence existed in their uncertainty. It existed in every storm cloud, every earthquake, every shipwreck, and every wave that disappeared into the horizon. The sea god was everywhere the sea was, and the sea was everywhere. But there was another reason Poseidon's rivalry with Athena mattered. It became part of the identity of Athens itself. Athena's victory was not simply remembered as a divine competition. It became a story about what the city believed it represented. Wisdom over brute force. Skill over uncontrolled power. Agriculture and craftsmanship over the unpredictable sea. Civilization over chaos. The olive tree became more than a plant. It became a symbol of Athens. The goddess who planted it became the city's patron, and the Acropolis became her sacred home. Centuries later, when the Athenians built the Parthenon, they were creating one of the most recognizable monuments in human history. At its center stood Athena's presence. Yet Poseidon remained nearby in the religious landscape of Attica. His temple at Saunion watched over the sea. His worship continued. The defeated god had not been forgotten. Perhaps that was fitting. Athena could represent the city, but Poseidon represented the world beyond the city walls. The sea that connected Athens to distant lands. The waters that carried merchants and soldiers. The storms that threatened its ships. The earthquakes that reminded everyone that even the greatest civilization stood upon unstable ground. Athens may have belonged to Athena, but it still lived in Poseidon's world. And Poseidon had not finished making his mark upon Greek mythology. His stories would continue through generations. He would appear in legends involving heroes, monsters, horses, storms, earthquakes, islands, and lost civilizations. His children would include figures both heroic and monstrous. His lovers would become part of some of the darkest transformations in Greek myth. His anger would create obstacles for heroes. His favor could bring prosperity. And his trident would become one of the most recognizable symbols in all mythology. Yet beneath all these stories lies one simple truth. Poseidon was the god of forces that human beings could never completely control. The ancient Greeks built cities. They constructed ships. They cultivated fields. They created laws. They studied the stars. They became sailors, warriors, merchants, philosophers, and artists. But no matter how advanced their civilization became, the sea remained larger than them. The earth remained capable of shaking beneath them. Nature could always remind them of their limits. Poseidon gave those forces a face. He gave the ocean a personality. He gave earthquakes an emotion. He gave the horse a divine origin. He transformed the unpredictable world into a story that people could understand. And perhaps that is what mythology does at its deepest level. It takes the things we fear and gives them names. It takes the forces we cannot control and gives them personalities. The Greeks could not stop a storm, but they could pray to Poseidon. They could not prevent an earthquake, but they could sacrifice to the earth shaker. They could not guarantee that a ship would return, but they could ask the sea god for mercy. In that sense, Poseidon was not simply a character from an ancient story. He was an explanation for the world as the Greeks experienced it. A world where nature could be generous one moment and merciless the next. And among all the gods of Olympus, few embodied that contradiction as completely as Poseidon. He could create. He could destroy. He could protect. He could punish. He could father heroes. He could unleash monsters. He could calm the sea with a gesture and then raise waves high enough to terrify an entire coastline. He could lose a city to Athena and still remain one of the most powerful gods in Greece. And perhaps his greatest lesson was not that mortals should worship power. It was that mortals should respect it. Because the sea does not care how powerful you believe you are. It does not care how wealthy your kingdom has become. It does not care how magnificent your ships are. One storm can reduce a fleet to broken wood. One earthquake can turn a palace into rubble. One wave can erase footprints from a beach before anyone realizes they were there. This was Poseidon, the god beneath the waves, the earth shaker, the horse lord, the father of heroes and monsters, the rival of Athena, the enemy of Odysseus, the divine ruler of the seas. But there was still a darker chapter in his story, because Poseidon's power did not end with the myths of Athens. His relationships with other gods and mortals would produce some of the strangest and most disturbing stories in Greek mythology. Stories of forbidden love, stories of jealousy, stories of transformation, Stories of children who inherited their father's power but not his restraint. And among them was one story involving a beautiful mortal woman whose fate would become forever connected to a monster with snakes for hair. Her name was Medusa. And when Poseidon entered her story, the consequences would become legendary. The sea god who had already challenged Athena was about to become part of one of mythology's most tragic tales. And this time, the story would not end with a city choosing between two gods. It would end with a hero, a monster, and a curse that would echo through thousands of years of human imagination. But the story of Poseidon is far from over. In the next chapter, we enter one of the darkest legends connected to the sea god, the tragic story of Medusa. What happened between Poseidon and the woman who would become one of mythology's most terrifying creatures? And why did Athena become involved? If you want to uncover the truth behind the myth, join me in the next chapter of Poseidon's story. And if you're enjoying this journey through the darkest legends of the ancient world, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications.